So, what a wonderful night last night.
Yeah.
If you would, I'm just going to ask you to participate in a little call and response fund. So all you have to do is sing back to me what I sing to you. And as we go through the song, we'll have a little fun playing with that. So just use your ears and pay attention. Here we go. In the shelter of each other. Take a little second this morning and turn to the person next to you and say, "It's so nice to hear you sing." And now we'll roll through that chorus one more time, like this. In the shelter of each other. In. We feel angry and afraid. We start to lose our sense of hope, our sense of direction. The isolation we have learned will not bring much in return if we truly cannot learn to live as one. Right in the shade. We start to lose our sense of joy, our sense of connection. And though our history remains, it's our actions we must change. If we hope to heal our planet, you know that we must stand right in the shelter of each other. How many of you are well versed in singing harmony? Wonderful. How many of you have always wanted to sing harmony but have never taken the leap? Wonderful. Well, we're going to throw open the gates. If you are not that well versed in singing harmony, I'll just give you a little heads up. Try singing a note that the person next to you is not singing. Still unscientific, but sometimes it works. And here we go. Right in the shelter. Oh, of each other. In the shelter of our lives. Yeah, we are hoping. We are dreaming. We are hopeful. We are wise. Yeah, we are hoping. We are dreaming. We are hopeful. We are wise. We are wise. We are wise. Nice to you. So I'm going to ask you to help me unpack what happened in that song from start to finish, including the introduction. And I want to see what you notice about not so much the song itself, but how I led the song. And as we unpack that, we'll talk about some of the little things that I think are critical to song leadership. We won't get to everything, but we'll do some other things. And then the way I see this time is that we will talk about leading songs. I know some of you are marvelous song leaders, and so I want to sort of glean some of your expertise as well. But looking at song leadership from the perspective of creating an atmosphere and also in creating an atmosphere, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the best possible use of the song, the time, and the experience that people have in actually singing the song. And there are several things that I think we can talk about this morning in song leadership that I find often get overlooked as we are leading groups in song. So, why don't we start sort of segmenting and think about what happened before we started singing. Yes?
You were relaxed, you didn't seem urgent, and you seemed open to what would happen as opposed to wedded to a particular way it had to unfold to make you happy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, yeah. Yes?
You immediately invited in the audience, and you invited them to be to participate immediately.
So an invitation and me being relaxed. Okay? Yes. And then
You were very clear and succinct in your communication.
mm-hmm. Thank you.
The call and response was a nice, easy, non-threatening way for people to get help.
Mm-hmm. Non-threatening, or at least less threatening, depending on which mountain you're trying to climb. Yes,
Well, I
Barb.
was going to say that, but also because that tells us what to do. So we say call and response, we know what we follow.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't harmonize. And then I got antsy, so I started harmonizing. But you didn't say to do that. You also didn't say not to do that. Then later you said to do that. So.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And it was, from the very beginning, it was not as if you were out there, okay, I'm going to teach you a song. It was immediately engaging as one big whole. You know, you just started singing and everybody knew they're going to, repeat each line after you as all community.
Thanks. Yeah.
Following that, like you didn't just like say the word and say, okay, sing. Which is what a lot of inexperienced song leaders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
One thing I notice about you as a performer is that when you sing, you smile.
Yes.
That's not always the case. There's no more welcoming sort of atmosphere than that.
Thank you. Yes.
You also make eye contact with people. I
Oh,
think
yes.
I had your eyes like at least 5 times.
Not a small thing. Yes.
You said this is a song in response, and then you explained what a song in response is. And then you did it.
Thanks for noticing. Yeah, good.
You had us turn to each other and say, it's nice to hear you sing, and that built community and establish connection.
Thanks for that. All of those things. Yes?
You also played your guitar, you played a little riff on the guitar as you were talking, which kind of lifted the mood.
And something about the space that you left for us to do the response, it was very clear where we fit in. It wasn't rushed, there was like a beat before and a beat after.
Thank you, Linda.
And you said something about it was going to get interesting toward the end, which made people want to focus more and pay attention. I think it was really good about being present, encouraging all of us to be present by focusing, by doing the chorus different each time and seeing it, since you had asked to follow what you were doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Ben.
I have a question. I like that the last verse was very soft, but why was it very soft?
Hold that. That's a great observation. Yes, Robin and Becky.
Just quickly, before we go any further, are you okay taking so much criticism?
Well, I'm trying not to show it. But I'll struggle through. Yes.
In the discussion inviting harmony, there was a joke about you just sing a different note, which sort of gives permission, just enjoy it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Thanks for noticing. You all are such marvelous observers. Class over. When you are a song leader, the people who are with you are in your hands. The experience that they will have will rest very critically on who you are at that moment and what it is you will do. And you're taking care of them. And so I feel it's just very important, first and foremost, and you mentioned, that I look relaxed, I look comfortable. That is largely because I am. Now, that didn't happen, that doesn't just come. Over the course of years, being relaxed and being within myself, confident and grounded is the first important thing. And we all come to that in different ways, but the first and foremost thing is pretty obvious. If you have a nervous person standing up there trying to do anything, the audience knows that they're not in good hands. Audience, congregation, whatever it is, they know they're not in good hands, so they're going to resist. And they're just going to feel uncomfortable. They probably won't evaluate it to that point. They're not going to sit there and go, I feel uncomfortable, They're just going to be it. And that's going to affect how they sing. It's also going to affect how the song is able to enter their consciousness and how the community gets built. So, first and foremost, first of all, you have to want to be here. And that's a whole process. But also, you have to be very confident. You have to know what it is you're going to do. You've got to really understand what your process is. Now, your process is not always going to look like mine. And that's fine. There's all kinds of different ways of song leadership. I say all kinds, but it fits into a kind of narrow focus. First of all, you've got to get people comfortable. You have to have them understand what it is you're doing. You're driving the bus, but for them to jump on the bus, they got to know that they're in good hands. They got to know that you have some idea. And if you don't, then over the course of that song, things are going to start falling apart, and people are going to opt out. So the other thing is the eye contact is important because you want to check in. You want to check in with who's there. You want to know that they know that you know they're there. And you want to periodically, I'm doing assessments all the time. Who's singing, who's not. Am I going to address whether they're singing or not, or am I just going to let them be? It's not important in any given situation that everybody sings. I often say, and I hate admitting this, but sometimes in an audience, I'm the worst person to want, to sing along. Because there's a lot going on. Now, for me personally, the difficulty is that if I'm in an audience, I'm working a lot of the time. I'm watching what's going on. I'm sort of measuring. I'm trying to learn, if somebody's doing something really great, I want to get some of that, But also if the music is affecting me, sometimes I really don't want to sing because I sing a lot. That's my thing. But the most important thing is that You know, you are the one who is here or in front or in the circle, you're leading. I mean, it really doesn't matter whether you're up in front of the group. If you're just present in a group and you are leading a song, just spur of the moment, round robin, the same ingredients are important. So the idea of, you know, introducing the song. Now, you might need to give a little background to the song. For that particular song, I don't need to. It sort of explains itself. There was a story that goes with the song, and sometimes I tell it. You know, if I'm with a group that I think would benefit from the story, it's basically a song that came out of an experience, and experience was of trying to get people together and focus on building community. And, you know, it's a funny little story. So there's a setup perhaps, but I think a lot of times we talk too much about songs. We explain them away, and we tell people what to think, and then the song is not personal for them. So I think whenever we're doing a song, particularly songs that people are going to sing, it's important to allow the song the space to do its own work. And so all you want to do is make sure that the people have a good experience of singing it. You want to be careful, of course, about ranging. I ranged that song a little lower this morning. I usually put a capo on it. I ranged it lower because I'm not quite there yet. And I know that having played with that, it's a little low for most of the men here, but they can hang, you know. I know that because I've done it enough times in G. But that's very important, you know, pitching a song where people can actually sing it. Seems obvious, but gets forgotten a lot. The other thing is, with the call and response, of course it is. It's an easy thing. You don't have to think. We're just going to do this, you know. I sing it, you sing it back. Now, the fun thing is that I'm also assessing that, you know, once we do it the first time, I see who's caught that and who seems to feel comfortable. Now I'm going to give a little, what did I do after that? Anybody notice?
Yeah.
After we sang it the first time?
Your singing became a little more complex. You added a little more to it.
And I also said, you know, I complimented you on your singing of that first time, and then I say, okay, let's go, you know, and now we really launch in. Now I've become a little more complex because I want the song to flow a little bit more. But if you notice, the first time I sang it pretty straight. Yes. There was no, you know, no embellishments, just straight. Make sure people get the words. Make sure people know the melody. And then we rise from there. So once we start singing, now I can see we were having a good experience. People are into it. The great thing about a call and response song that has a verse to it is that now I also give you the opportunity to rest. That's also where the message gets delivered. But, you know, I give you the opportunity to rest, take that in, and then we're going to come back and do it again. And over that course, the song, I'm going to use that, drop the message in, and now I'm also assessing, I'm watching people to see what their faces do for the voice, for the verse. Because your faces are telling me a lot about how comfortable you are. Second verse, chorus. I really want to give you the last chorus. What happened on the last chorus?
The harmony.
What did I?
The harmony.
Yeah, the harmony. Okay, so we went to the harmony, which gets a little more expansive. Now I also, if I'm working with a group that I'm going to be with for a while or for a course of an evening, I also find out how accomplished the singers are. Who do I have in this audience that really can go? That might, you know, give me an idea of some other song later that I can do that's a little more complex, that would be fun for this group, not fun for another group. So that's another part of the assessment as we're going. Again, as you're going through this, the experience of the song is not so much for me, I'm working. And it's not that the work is not enjoyable, I'm having a great time. But I'm working to see what level of community we have and what level of singers we have and where we can go from here. So the other thing that I want to do in that last, what did I do with my guitar?
Stop playing it.
I stopped playing it. Why?
So you could hear us.
So you could hear it.
Yes.
There's nothing like, I think we get in love with our guitars and our keyboards and all of that, and you know, but there's nothing like human voices finding each other.
So it's not important to have an instrument for those of us who don't play them?
Absolutely not. When I was growing up, in my church, we had an organ, we had a piano, and sometimes 2 pianos or whatever we had. But the really amazing times for me, and I didn't know this growing up because I was focused on other youthful things. The most amazing time was, I grew up a Baptist, and on first Sundays we had an afternoon communion service. And it was really, what it was straight out of the Southern experience of African Americans sitting with each other and singing for hours. It also happened in the Civil Rights Movement with mass meetings. There were very seldom ever instruments. And we would just sit there for 2.5 hours, and people would just raise up songs, a cappella, all together. And the experience of that, fortunately, sunk in. And I recognized...
Despite yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. Thank my mother for that. But you know, this is what we do. You know, this is we find those parts of ourselves. That is also what helps me be grounded in the leadership of what it helps me form my vision of what's important to me, but also what I think is important to share with an audience or with a group. It is that connection of voice, sharing the air, and actually hearing each other in whatever way. We were doing a recording with Bernice Johnson Reagan at one point, and so she was kind of leading us through. She asked me how I wanted to do the song, and I wasn't stupid enough to walk into that trap. I mean, really? I just kind of said, well, no, Sister Bernice, how are we going to do this? And she didn't waste any time. She said, okay, fine, well. So she let us know, we said, well, we were going to try to create, we were doing the song, Oh Mary, Don't You Weep. And we're doing a cappella, and so we just sort of laid basic tracks out, you know, just us singing, 3-part. And then we sang another 3-part, you know, filling in some time, put some bass in it, and then we kept going. And then her vision was that she said, now this is folks just sitting in the church and singing. And we said, okay, fine. So at one point the producer, you know, said, well, not last track, she said, after we finished laying down 3 tracks, she said, I'd like to listen to that again because, well, she didn't say why, because she said, I'd like to listen to that again. And Bernie said, well, why are we listening? What are we listening for? And she said, well, I think Reggie actually on that last 2 lines was maybe a little sharp. Maybe, you know, why don't we listen to him? And she said, and I said immediately, oh, sure, okay, I can fix that. And then Bernie said, well, so she said, okay, why don't we listen to that? But I'd just like to say that the important thing about people singing is people singing. She said, so, and she turned to me and she said, so if I'm not stepping out of bounds here, and then she said to the producer, we're not going to do a whole lot of listening today. She said, I mean, this is not about fixing, it's about being in the song. And we kind of went, okay. And the last thing we did, she turned to Kim and she said, now I need you to sing one last part. And this part is that woman that's sitting at the back of the church who always believed she should have been part of the Met. But she can't sing a lick. But she's singing loud and strong. I need you to sing that part. And it's got to be high. So I share that story to say that, you know, we really need to make it okay for people to be who they are. And for people to experience this in an atmosphere that is not only forgiving, but also welcoming. So the last part, I drop the guitar out, and I do this often in songs, just to let you hear what's happening. And then completing the song, you notice, again, I'm playing with, you know, the techniques, but I lengthen the last. Are we connected? Are you listening? How close? And all of them just kind of extend it out. So that's kind of an anatomy of one song, an anatomy of leadership. It's about having an idea. You have a vision for what it is you're trying to do. Now, one of the things I find that a lot of people, one of the problems with song leading is also songs, you know, the songs that you pick. And once you assess the level of singer that you have, then you can sort of play with that and go with it. But I think a lot of times people just pick songs that are just hard to sing. too many words, really difficult melodies, ranges that just, you really do need to be in the Met to get at. You have to do as much preparation before the fact of, figuring out, songs that are in the range. Because if you're singing for multiple audiences, you have no idea who's going to show up. You have no idea who's going to be sitting there. So you want to obviously have, on the low end, something that's really easy, and something that is within range, and something that is easily learnable. I just find a lot of times traveling around, people will say, okay, I have a song for you, and here's the chorus. And then they launch into the chorus a couple times, and then, and they go, okay, that's good, and they move on. You always have to be aware, it's not about you. It's not about the thing you're trying to do. It's about accessibility and experience. So, I want to deal with your question, and I forgot what it is.
I wanted to know why the last was so soft, the last verse.
The last verse was soft because it's atmosphere. And if you notice, I played with the dynamics several times during the song. I'm playing with the dynamics because it's, first of all, musically, it's an important thing to do. But also, at that moment, I want the lyrics to sink in. And I don't want you thinking, Kim, where are you going? That was a nice try. Yeah, I know your name wasn't on the listing, but yeah, really.
Yeah. Worth a try.
So the last phrasing was soft because I'm also allowing the song now to speak for itself, and I also find that one of the casualties of folk music is often a lack of dynamics. We lament the fact that there are some really important things in folk music and rock and all that, but dynamics and the openness of intention in the musical form is not something that really gets much attention. And by that I mean, we are more about message than we are about feel. And I come from, all of the traditions I come from really critically exist within the measure of feel. I think about the songs that I heard growing up, certainly in church, and a lot of them actually were laments, because many of the spirituals are. They're sorrow songs, and sometimes we don't match songs with the intensity of emotion that they convey, and it's something that is very important, I think, to reclaim. There are reasons to sing songs in a lot of different ways, but if I'm calling up, for example, Wade in the Water, it's very different in working with a group to sing Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water. A very different expression would be wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water. Who are those children children all are dressed in red. God's gonna trouble the water. They must be the ones that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Come on and wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, who are those children all are dressed in white? God's gonna trouble the water. They must be the ones ready to fly. God's gonna trouble the water. Sing it, say. Wade in the water. Oh, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, now God's gonna trouble. Now that is something that is particular to European culture that is very different in African American culture. That once you establish the song, in the African American song tradition, you're never going to stop until the song leader tells you to. And whatever you know about the song is just going to continue. So if we're singing God's going to trouble the water, regardless of what I do, unless I just abruptly stop you, did you see us stop?
No.
You're just going to continue
What
singing.
happened? I kept singing.
All by herself. And it's really funny. I've been doing a lot of work on a thing called the Living Legacy Pilgrimage, taking people to sites of the civil rights movement in Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee over the course of years. And most of the folks that have come to that are Unitarians, most white, most non-people of color. Now this year, surprisingly, we had more people of color on the bus than we have ever had. Kim actually went this year as well. And one of the tough things I worked with all week is establishing the song and then being able to step off and do something else and have them continue it. And actually on the buses with the staff, it's become a joke. It's become sort of a funny thing, oh yeah, we forgot again. We have established a song, wade in the water, sing wade in the water, oh, wade in the water. I say, God's gonna trouble the water. Now in the black church where that song rose out of, now the song leader has has cachet to go other places because the people know what to sing. And they just gonna sing it. So you say, God's gonna trouble the water. If I say that God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, God's gonna. That's the conversation, and it really is a conversation. That brings up another point. If we're working with groups that are of different culture or a culture that they are not familiar with the song, now you have a responsibility as a song leader to teach them what that is. And so if I'm working with a group that I know they don't have that, the song that we did last night, see how many of you remember it. Well, I've never been to heaven, but I think I'm right. Bring down into the south. There's folks up there, both black and white. Bring down into the south. I said, hallelujah, freedom. Hallelujah, freedom. Hallelujah, freedom. Bring down into the south. So there were really a lot of things I learned in teaching that song on the bus. I learned, first of all, that syncopation becomes a very difficult thing for people to anticipate. Hallelujah. I cannot expect most of the people on the bus to get that clap. So I don't require that of them. It's not important. I'll do the clap. Because they're going to come in somewhere else. Because their cultural rhythm is somewhere else. That's not a bad thing. It's just different. Okay? So, as a song leader, I'm not going to expect them to know or do certain things about that. But I have to get them in. I was teaching this to a choir actually at, actually it wasn't a choir, it was the whole camp. We were at the, I remember the acronym, but I can't remember this. At any rate, it was a big camp for music. We'll stop there. Thank you very much. See, that's why.
Say no, it's not, but whatever. You got one more minute.
So I'm teaching this song. So the syncopation becomes a problem. So you have two things that you can do as a song leader. Either you can ease the syncopation or you can eliminate it. So, you know, the bass part as I was teaching it for that was sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. Now I found out that with the group that I had assembled, they were never going to get that. You know, we kind of bend down into the south, sing hallelujah. Try singing that. 1, 2. Bend down into the south, sing hallelujah. Now for whatever reason, whatever their DNA was, whatever their cultural context was, the basses never got that. They could never remember to do that syncopation. So we say, okay, fine, we're not going there. It's about creating the atmosphere in which they do not fail. Because I want them to get the song. So, that was 45 seconds.
That's right. Okay,
You go.
relax now. So,
Oh, before we move, any questions on where we are? Yes?
Well, you kind of answered it partly, but my question was about teaching choruses. You didn't have to teach when you do call and response, but when there is, like Laurie last night, Laurie Wyatt, so he taught the song, and it was a bit complex, so that was good. But sometimes we wonder, is there too much? Can you do that too much if you do it several times, and then should you sing it as well? I mean, sometimes we get really kind of hung up on that.
okay, so.
I'm going to say, just answer a couple questions, and I'll go over.
I'm right with that.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, how about this? Because I want to put it in a context.
Okay.
The key word, and I know you've been talking about this in all different kinds of ways, is hospitality. Did you use that word?
I did not, because that's your word.
Hospitality. Now, part of the hospitality is, first, you welcome in the culture or the people who created the song. Okay? Welcome in. We've been having a conversation with some of my Facebook friends and I about angels watching over me. Some of us learned it as a camp song, but it comes from the African American slave tradition. So you welcome in the people or the culture who created the song. You welcome, of course, yourself in, and part of how you welcome yourself is know and learn the song very well. You must know the song very well. Reggie probably already said something about, because folks want to feel confident that you are driving the bus.
It can never be said too often.
Okay? But then the next piece of hospitality, and this goes to your question, Barb, is that you've got to welcome in who you have in the room. If there are too many words in the verse, after a while it's not welcoming because people are starting to get lost and it's just kind of hard. Now, if you can line it out, you know, the way Pete could do, but even then sometimes it can, you know, go a little bit off the rails there. You know, so it's always about hospitality. So if you have a song and you line it out, you know, you give out what is needed, then the next song that you choose, don't make it hard. You know, if you've got a series of songs, your next song, make it something easy. Either something that lots of people already know, or something that is simple call and response. Because folks need to rest, and they need to relax a little bit.
And if you're going to do a really complex song that really is all singing, you really have to allow the time for people to learn it. And also, as I said, process. Develop a process for how you teach parts. If you're not working from, you know, printed music.
Sometimes I have songs that have fairly long, complex choruses, but there's a couple of lines that are very easy. And I tell the audience, well, just come in on the last 2 lines. Those are easy. And was that...
Yes.
Is that cheating or?
No. Yeah, because, you know, being hospitable is never cheating. You know, so being hospitable might be, you know, we do this thing, and even when we do with young people, and it's like, you know, I knows it, indeed I knows it, brother, I knows it, whee, the bones gonna rise again. And when we do it with adults, what we say to them is, you know, learn all that, do that with us, have a good time, but if it's feeling too much, then sit there, look good, bob your head, and wait for us to get to the part that says, woo!
It's low risk, it's a buy-in.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed how you'll see people that'll just do that, and then after a while, then they'll start trying a little bit more, but you give permission, you know, so it's great. So if you know that there's, now here's another one, this is a choir director trick. Teach the people that the hardest part first, even if it doesn't start at the very beginning of the chorus. So if there are a couple lines, you'll teach them those lines, you know, and then they'll feel a little more comfortable. Great. I saw a couple other questions there. Because see, I was going to ask what you talked about, but I'm finding out now.
Being found out, yeah.
Yeah.
Two thoughts on what you said. One based on the question. I think people often tend to confuse excitement with volume.
Yes.
But one of the most exciting, I remember seeing Serafina in Brooklyn, must have been 25, 30 years ago. And there was one scene where her voice went down to here, and you could hear it throughout the theater, and that's the thing I remember in that show. It's a loud show. I remember that. I don't remember my name half the time.
I'll tell you a trick too.
How exciting quiet was.
Well, it's that focus. I'll tell you, one of the tricks that we use with working with audiences, school audiences, is, you know, they are used to all day, in some schools, people going, ah! So how are we different? We come into the auditorium, we go, good morning. We sing songs that have range, and when we really need them, we see them getting a little antsy, we go here. And they go, what the heck is that?
Or they start to lean in. So.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could share another example.
Of?
Something where you lead us in a song.
Oh, sure.
We probably will, but also we want to get the questions that people are asking, and then we'll have time for a couple more at the end. So that'd be great.
Yes, rules of thumb for pitching, please. Do you find certain keys that you can actually name to be the best?
Well, it varies on the song, but, you know, C is always a good bet.
And then also the age of the audience. With little kids, their ranges are not that wide. You know, so we might do, if we're doing Wade in the Water with them, if we're doing it with adults, we do it in A minor, but that's a little low for young kids, and they like to sing it. So then what are you usually doing?
B minor.
In B minor.
Sometimes with really young kids, I'll do it with C minor. You know, so, you know, there are actual charts of that, and I keep meaning to look them up.
Yeah, because the other thing is that, you know, now because Reg and I are, you know, a man and a woman, we can kind of come between, you know, sort of negotiate between us, because there are times when I start a song and then I realize that it's either way too high for the men, or, you know, or I might start it too low for a lot of women just because of the range of my voice. But the great thing about song leading is that your audience will tell you if it's working or not.
And if I'm singing with an audience, or if we're singing with an audience, and we start into a song and we hear that the people are struggling with, there is nothing that says you can't stop and change key. That's part of your responsibility. Yes, and then yes.
Is there any tip you can give to those of us who ourselves maybe have kind of a limited vocal range, so that maybe I can't pitch it in 7 different keys and pull it off myself?
Because it's usually not.
I'm going to do it high tenor range. That's where it's going to be.
Right. Then some of that is going to be pick your songs carefully, and just have certain songs that you know are going to work for a majority of your audience. And then look in hymnals, because a lot of times hymnals have good pitches because they're made for mixed group. So just see what kind of keys they pitch in, and if there's a song, it's not that you're going to do the song necessarily, but just kind of watch the way they pitch the key. And then there might be some songs that you might say, that is not going to be my song to lead. You know, and that's just the way that goes, and that's okay. That's
Did you say there were charts for different?
Yeah, and I mean, well,
There are charts that, and you can find them in, and I know you can find this online, you know, if like how to score music for a choir, or, you know, and they'll show you, you know, low male range would be from here to here, and then, you know, the lower women's range would be from here to here. They'll actually show you.
It really does depend on the melody of the song, what the range of the melody is. So, you know, some songs in A minor or B aren't going to be because the range is too great.
Right. And a lot of spirituals will jump an octave. That just tends to be a part of the way that it is. So you just have to, and sometimes you just say to people, gird your loins. Sit up because we're going up. And I say, you know, sometimes you kind of warn it because a lot of times people can do it, but they're scared.
So in that instance, you might actually do a little bit of vocal work with your group. And just kind of, you know, prepare them for it, get them breathing, get them supporting the note. Go after that high note, say, you know, and you play with that. Play with the idea. Okay, let's go find that note. Yes?
Getting back to stopping and changing the key or whatever, I find that audiences or groups like that. They like it when you stop and make adjustments, and because I think it conveys there's not just one right way to do this kind of stuff. We work together on this.
Yes. And they know that you
so I sometimes will do it deliberately, just.
Oh, I don't think that's right for you. Here, let's change.
Or for some other thing, let's do that again. Or remember this invitation, and
that's
it becomes working together.
And then we missed somebody.
Yeah, we did. Yes.
Well, I wanted to sort of step back to what you were talking about with hospitality of the song and bring up a point that you hadn't done, which is true for performers, but I find it's also really true for song leaders, is don't apologize.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, I guess, you know, I would...
Do you mean apologizing for your presence?
Yeah, I mean, like,
For a mistake.
I mean, like, I haven't done this for a while.
Yes, that, yeah.
Well, truth is, if you haven't done it for a while, perhaps you shouldn't be doing it now.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so just, you know, be there.
I hope to have this a little bit better, but I was slow getting through traffic one day.
I also hate, you know, getting up in front of an audience and saying, well, this is a new song and I haven't done it. This is the first time publicly.
Right.
You know, because there's an audience member, I'm kind of going, really?
Okay, so come here and there. Yes, please.
There's one other thing about changing the key in the middle. I think the other thing is it shows the audience that, like, I know it's okay for me not to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You know. But anyway, can you explain why, Kim, it works better to teach the audience the harder part first?
And because if you start with the harder part first, people they are more ready, they're listening, their brains are all set, and you teach them that part. And then when you go back, you teach something a little bit easier, they can relax for a minute.
One of the other,
because sometimes if you you know, it's like you don't want to tire your audience out. You know, so you know, you start there. And then you go back and you do the easy part, and then you get to that hard part. They already know, and it's like, oh, yeah.
One of the other tricks of learning a song is to learn it backwards, because you're always then working towards something you already know. So by the time it's just one other technique that's sort of similar to that. Now you have a lower fail point when you get to that. And that was middle, and then yes.
I guess I just wanted to piggyback on the idea of apologizing and making mistakes. And obviously, you make mistakes like every performer on stage. No, maybe you don't. But I mean, I know when I watch performers and they are imperfect and they do things that are imperfect, it actually, in some ways, endears me to them. And it's like, okay, you know, but it's yours, you know. So, what advice do you have for, you know, those moments where you do make this mistake, you know, you forget, something happens to your guitar string or whatever?
Because some of it's different. Apologizing is different from making a mistake.
Right.
Okay, so the apology is, in some ways, you're trying to endear yourself to the audience. Well, I didn't know that, you know, and you don't have to do that. But if you're up there and something happens, you just go, ah, that happened. Let's do it again.
And part of that is what I was talking about, being grounded and, you know, and knowing why you're there and being comfortable with being there. Is that in your, I mean, you've practiced enough, you know that you've put the time in, you know that you know the songs, you know that, you know, you actually have strung the guitar. You know, the strings were on when you got there. You know, you cannot, you know, so in that persona, you are relaxed and you are present. And if something happens, you need to respond to that in a relaxed and present way.
Right.
The guitar, I didn't break the string, it broke.
Now, we all know stories of people that they break their string halfway and then pretend and, you know, all that. Now, you know, make no mistake, a song leader is a performer. Performance is not a dirty word. You know, a minister, a priest, it's all performance. Some of it just has to do with who the audience is. In terms of a song leader, your audience is the originating community. Your audience is also the context of the song in the room. You know, the audience is you. The audience might also be a movement to which the song is connected. So it just, you know, depends on who your audience is. And honoring that audience is important. So here's an example. We could sing a little bit on this one. There's a song, we started off with it this morning, Down by the Riverside. Now, there are times when I don't want to do that song because a lot of the people with whom we are singing start off immediately, I'm gonna lay down my side, and you know, and it's like, just, you know, after a while, I got tired of that. But then we started thinking about the originating community, and there are those that talk about it coming out of the Civil War experience of black soldiers. And when you think about people who were fighting for their own freedom, coming through that experience and saying, I ain't gonna study war no more. I mean, that is deep, you know. So how do we honor that community while we also honor the energy that people really bring to the song? So part of what we do, make sure we get this in the right key. We heard an older version of the melody. But what we have to do when we're singing it is that we have to do something to sort of, you know, for lack of a better term, sort of tap down the enthusiasm of people, because folks will run away with that song really quickly. So, first of all, we started in a slower tempo. We started humming and softly. And then we only sing the verse. We don't go to the chorus because people will run with the chorus. So to keep it gentle, we just sing the verse a few times.
Down by the riverside, I'm gonna lay my burden down. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna lay my burden down. Study war no more.
So that brings in some of the aspect of the lament that those black soldiers had. And some of the aspect of the lament that our soldiers in these days have. You know, you've been to war, you got lament happening. So let's sing that first part again.
I notice that often we also use our hand to demonstrate where the pitch is. Give people a heads up.
Down by the riverside, gonna lay my burden down. Down by the riverside, gonna lay my burden down. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna lay my burden down. And study war no more. Gonna put on my long white robe. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna put on my long white robe. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna put on my long white robe. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna put on my long white robe and study war no more. Now what I hear is beautiful, gentle singing, harmonies happening. So, you know, we're into a different feel of the song. Now, the third verse we usually sing is, down by the riverside, I'm going to walk in the ways of peace. Now, why we sing that is that, you know, the original community sang, I'm going to walk with the Prince of Peace, but that's a reference to Jesus. And, you know, we have mixed audiences. So, hospitality. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna walk in the ways of peace. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna walk in the ways of peace. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna walk in the ways of peace and study war no more. Now, to honor the hospitality of the people that are with us, some of whom can't wait to get to the chorus. Okay, and that's okay, but we still keep the chorus kind of gentle. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. And if you notice, when we got to that the third line, study war no, I did not sing war, okay, because that sort of takes it, you know, it's like I did study war no more. And one thing that we hope to invite communities to do who are used to singing it and love to sing it, almost to the point where they maybe stop hearing it, is to hear the song again.
I find the same thing is very true.
Beautiful song. It's an incredible song. Good.
I find the same thing is very true of Kumbaya and other songs. You know, songs sometimes. Well, we need to, as song leaders, also take songs that have remarkable significance and reclaim them. We did the same thing, we've been doing the same thing, because it's an ongoing process, with We Shall Overcome. And on that one, our actual thing was that it becomes, songs exist in context, and then that sort of rubs up against, or people get an experience of it that is one thing. So
right, and they also acquire layers of meaning to them, and unfortunately for Come By Here, for Kumbaya, the layer that it has recently acquired is that Kumbaya moment. So here's a Kumbaya moment. 1965, four.
Mississippi song?
Yes, it was. 1964. Were they still in Oxford?
Oxford, Ohio.
Oxford, Ohio. People were training to be there for Mississippi Freedom Summer.
Over 1,000 college students at Oxford, Ohio. They had applied to be part of Mississippi Freedom Summer.
And you said that Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney were...
Yeah, the leadership from Mississippi had come to Oxford to sensitize and train these folks, because they were from all over the country. They were certainly wanting to go into Mississippi, but they really didn't know what they were going into. And as you probably know, the entire idea of having white college students, mostly white, all of them weren't white, but mostly white college students going into Mississippi was not one that was greatly embraced by the leaders of SNCC and CORE, who were actually pulling this up. So they had a lot of work to do, and they're all there together. Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney were some of that leadership.
Right.
And so they were there from the beginning of it.
So Mickey Schwerner,
Andrew Goodman, and James Cheney.
They left and went back to Mississippi to investigate the burning of a church. And they were kidnapped.
And they were missing.
And they were missing. So the word came back to the students that were training. And now what? The word went out around the country, and you know their parents were thinking, what are y'all doing? And so the students sat down in circles, from what we hear. One by one, they would go down the hall to the payphone, or no cell phones, but to contact their parents. And the students were invited to think about it. Do you still want to go to Mississippi? And they sat down in circles with each other, and they sang, "Come by here, my Lord, come by here, come by here, my Lord, come by here, come by here, my Lord, come by here, oh Lord, come by here. And they sang and they cried and they talked and they wondered, and from what we understand, all but one decided to go on to Mississippi. So these days, when we hear people jokingly say about a kumbaya moment, we like to tell that story to say, you want to know what a kumbaya moment is? This is a kumbaya moment. And we say that it's part of our mission to keep that layer as a part of the history, because we don't want to dishonor the original communities, we don't want to dishonor the civil rights community, and as song leaders we need to teach the newer communities about that. I know our time is probably right up at the end, so.
So did they actually, they said, come by here, right? Did they mean, I mean.
Well, kumbaya is really a way of saying come by here. It's funny because we probably need to talk to some people that were in the room to see what they actually sang, because we're lucky, there are probably still some people that might remember what verses they sang. Someone's missing, Lord. Someone's dying, Lord. But they sat and they sang together. And that's the song that they sang as they discerned an incredibly, dangerous task.
And as a song leader, knowing that that song has such a different context at this point, that's one of the things that you'll share. That's one of the setups that we, Yes?
I just wanted to say, probably all of us have had people say that in that diminishing way, like, oh, what are we going to do? I'll stand, hold hands in a circle and sing Kumbaya. And the response I've taken is like, oh my God, you guessed it exactly! Instead of saying, yeah, I'm sorry, it's like, oh yeah, exactly! So it's a way of saying, don't make fun of this, you got it. So it's honoring, it's like, yeah, you figured it out, perfect moment.
It's funny because we were leading this law in mind for a group, and afterwards they did evaluations of the entire day, and on one of the evaluations, a person said, if I have to hear This Little Light of Mine one more time, and in reading that I thought, that's okay. Their experience, you're not going to get to everybody's experience of a song, but it's our responsibility to present the song in a way that can be accessible.
Right, so that's why we, these days, a lot of times we'll sing that, the Paul Robeson melody, a little bit of a different melody, a different feel, but to just help people hear that again. Now, we're gonna have to let you go.
I got one more.
Okay, what time are we actually supposed to be done?
Okay, sorry, Maggie. You can ask us that. If you have other questions, we're here, we're around. So, thank you so much.